everybody. I'm Shaquita Graham. I'm here with my great friend, Nomalanga Mashali Moses. Together, we are Married Women's Business. You can find us at marriedwomensbiz.com. Listen, tales from my timeline, all right? We are going to share with you a controversial outfit that a young woman was wearing, and it came into question whether saying something about this outfit would be slut shaming. Now, I have altered the post to cover this woman's assets, so to speak, because it would just really be profane to just show them on video like this. So let me share my screen, and then Noma, you can tell us what you think. Here it is. Here it is. Now, this was on the lovely Sarah's timeline. She goes under Me Beauty, they call, and she's a fierce model. Very beautiful young woman, and she posted this and said she was scrolling, she saw this photo, and she said, I must ask this. What is the true definition of slut shaming? And she said she asked because she was told that the definition is that women have the freedom to sleep with whomever, that the definition is that women have the freedom to sleep with whomever and dress however and shouldn't be judged based on that, okay? And she says, well, how should we approach this girl? And she actually told me she's going to be talking about this on Tariq Nasheed's new show called Ism, and it's going to be airing on January 10th. So anyway, you can see that I took the liberty to kind of try to cover this girl up on video, even though she was at a party with all of this in black was exposed, okay? And the comments. Now, some people said, this person said, she's not harming anybody, so let her be. I probably strike up a conversation with her. It takes confidence to wear that, and confidence is attractive. And this woman said that, the woman in the picture is seeking attention, point blank and simple. But she says she will agree with, I'll put this person's name. Boobs aren't inherently sexual. However, the motive behind the outfit. I don't know whose boobs they're talking about, but my boobs are inherently sexual. And then the other person said, now you're definitely slut shaming. And Sarah, Me Beauty They Call, said, all I'm saying is black women complain about black men not marrying them, and they walk out of the house like this. This isn't wifey material, period. We all get groomed to get attention, whether that be men, women, whatever. I'm sure if her father saw her, he wouldn't approve. Okay. What do you have to say, Noma?
I was just going to say, to clarify that picture where you put that where you blacked it out, if it wasn't blacked out, her nipples were literally showing. It wasn't like
you can see her whole breast. If you would like to go to Facebook, you will see it all.
Right. So I just want the image to be clear so everybody understands what we're talking about here. But to the young lady who spoke about her father, I actually thought of a quick story I can tell. When I was 18 years old, I can remember I went out partying, and I got home at around 4 a.m. And it was the weekend, where my father tended to be at the farm on the weekend, but for whatever reason, this weekend he was home. Mm-hmm. So when he got home and realized I wasn't home, he sat up and waited for me to come back home. And I didn't get home until 4 a.m. And when I got home, he just waited until I went in my room. Then he switched off all the lights and went to bed. Then the next morning, he called me into the living room and sat down. And of course, I knew that I had to answer for the 4 a.m. or whatever. Mm-hmm. The one thing that I love about my father and the way that I was raised was I was never really chastised when I did the wrong thing, but I tended to get lectured and told the ramifications of what I was doing. And he wanted me to make a decision about the kind of woman that I wanted to be. And we had this conversation, and he started telling me about what it seems like and what it means to be a young woman who at 18 years old, at 18 years old, you think you're grown, right? I'm over 18, so I can drink, I can, all these things. And he said, I think it's your decision whether you want to be out at 4 a.m. But I want to talk to you about that decision and what it means for you and who you want to be. And the conversation obviously went on to what I desire for myself and what he desires for himself. And he gave me the examples of his sisters who are now happily married and the kind of ways that they conducted themselves at that age. And, you know, long story short, they didn't come home at 4 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
So it started that process of thinking in me about who I want to be. The point that I'm making here is, let's look at a woman who goes out in public with her breast exposed and what her intentions are about herself and her life, about the kind of woman that she wants to be, about the kind of attention she wants to draw to herself, and the message that she's sending out to the world about herself. And unfortunately, none of it is good. None of it is good.
Yeah, I mean, talking about, you know, your late teens, early 20s, you know, I can say for sure that I bought into a lot of lies about, you know, what sexuality should be, shouldn't be, how free or not free I should be exposing certain parts of my body. And I later wished that, you know, I hadn't made some of the decisions I made. And during those times of regret, I thought to myself that I wish it was someone, some Black woman who was in my life who was wiser than me, who would have, you know, spoken to me about this, because, you know, I had to learn from trial and error. Like, okay, I'm getting these results. I need to change this. I'm projecting this. People are getting this idea about me. People are thinking that about me. And I think that maybe, you know, women in this scenario, maybe they don't understand what they're projecting. They don't understand men. They don't understand relationships. They don't understand what their visual body represents when it's unclothed or clothed. And they don't draw parallels. And people who say that we shouldn't be slut shaming, they are not recognizing that, you know, the way you represent yourself does say something about you, your character, your morals. Because if that's the case, why should we wear a suit to an interview? Why should we, you know, do any of those things? And not only that, I used to admire my friends who had, you know, uncles that were a little older than them or older brothers, because I felt like they protected them. And, you know, we protect and guard the things that we value, you know, and I don't think that us speaking about Black women having respect for themselves and clothing themselves is being condescending or slut shaming, but it's us protecting them. We want to protect the image and the reality of Black womanhood, and that is why we confront these ideas.
I want to ask you a question. What is a slut?
I mean, I think that a slut is someone who devalues their sexuality and their body, and is very careless with it.
Right. I think along similar lines is a slut is somebody who has no discretion about their sexuality and their body, no respect for it. And that is something that we have to be taught. And if somebody's giving off signals that they don't value their body and so on, one of the ways that they do it is by walking around with their boobs out.
Exactly. And again, you know, I mean, I was part of the Daisy Dukes culture and different things like that when I was younger. And the thing is that I realized that I was degrading myself. At first, I just didn't really think. I bought into, and this is the thing, we buy into these narratives, these so-called mainstream narratives. Like, okay, I saw somebody on a runway with a shirt where they show all their boobs and everything, so I'm gonna wear this to a party the other day. And, you know, Becky on the TV show told me that as a Black woman, I need to be free with my breasts and that my breasts aren't sexual. So, you know, I can just wear this and it's not a big deal. So we buy into these Eurocentric ideas that really propagate low self-esteem and low self-respect for Black bodies. And we buy, and these same ideas and propaganda influence policies and actions that, you know, harm Black people.
Right. And I wanted to also go back to one of the comments that you read where one person was talking about, wow, she looks like she's a confident young woman that she can dress like that. And it's important to recognize that in the age of media being a stronger influencer and teacher of in some people's households, there are these lies that take the direct opposite of the truth and pose it as the truth.
Mm-hmm.
So to say that she's out there looking like that because she's confident is actually the exact opposite of what it is. If you are confident in who you are, you won't feel the need to attention seek by having your nipples out the whole night in front of a room full of people. It has its place. One of the things that I think I shared I think a couple of weeks ago and talked about twerking, and I said I have nothing against twerking, nothing at all. But guess what happens in my bedroom, and there's only one other person in there when I'm twerking. It's not for everybody. You see what I'm saying? So it's not really necessarily that we think her breasts are ugly or that she shouldn't be sexual. It's about the time and place and the appropriateness of it. And saying that because she's confident she's doing this. No, if she was confident, she would understand that it has its place, and that's behind closed doors. So it's the exact opposite. And the same goes for where people say, well, why are they sexualizing her breasts? Well, the only time that I can honestly say that breasts are not sexual is when my baby's latched onto them. They're feeding. That's their function at the time. But other than that, they are sexual. And if you're exposing them, it is in a sexualized way, unless you're feeding a baby. So some of these
culture in the
right. So it's the exact opposite. It's the exact opposite. What we're hearing these people say or respond to this is exactly the opposite. What they're putting across as the truth is the exact opposite of the truth.
And another thing is, you saw in the comments where people were like, well, you know, that's her. Let her do her. She doesn't have the same values you might have. You know, that's her business if she wants to do this or she wants to do that. And as a young person, I bought into that mentality because as Black people, we're told that what we do as individuals does not affect the Black community, and we're not beholden. Our lives are not beholden to other Black people, and we are not even connected to all Black people in this nation or even around the globe. And it's just not true. And that's the problem. Sarah made the wonderful comment about, Black women wanting to be married and things like that. And people were coming against her for that. Like, yeah, it's a good thing to want to be married and build a family. We don't exist in a microcosm, in a bubble by ourselves. We are intricately tied to one another. And right now we have a massive, major global problem, and it's called racism, white supremacy. And part of that problem is that Black women and Black men have been over-sexualized.
Yes.
Sexualized. Black men and Black women have been over-sexualized, and we fall into that trap. First of all, it kind of perpetuates itself. It's fed to us, it's projected on us in the media. We're shown as just whorish and rude and
don't know how to act in public.
Right. So that's projected on us, and then we buy into it and act that out. And then other nations or ethnicities believe that about us, and then it translates into how we end up doing business, the opportunities we have. The opportunities we have to even in the media, the opportunities that we have in jobs. And this is not about respectability or proving anything to white people, but we have to respect ourselves enough to say, no, this is not who we are. And I go back to the whole idea of protecting the image of the Black woman, the Black man, the Black family, and the Black child. We need to protect that. Jewish people protect their image, and they have, a serious example of why they need to do that. They recognize how their image was used as a weapon against them. So we need to recognize that as well. So it goes beyond just as one woman, and it goes beyond just your individual standards. We as a Black community need to be on code with one another and have standards. Any nation that wants to thrive needs to have standards.
Right. And you went right where I wanted to go and talk about the word standards. Mm-hmm. We have to have an ideal, and we have to have standards. Everything needs a benchmark. Mm-hmm. In other words, this is what we're aspiring to be. This is what we're trying to do. This is the standard. And then after that, you have the choice to meet it or not.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't know how to meet it, you can ask for the information, but the standard has to be there. And it really is interesting to me that we find that, like you said, in a lot of cultures and in a lot of communities, they all have a standard.
Mm-hmm.
They all have a collective understanding of what's right and what's wrong and where they're moving collectively.
Many cultures, not everyone.
Not everybody, right? But my point, though, is with us, I grow tired of when we try to set a stat or establish standards for ourselves, since sometimes they've been, taken all over the place and things have been projected onto us. When we try to establish a standard, unfortunately, right amongst us, you get the pushback of you can't try to make me do this. Nobody's trying to make anybody do anything.
Mm-hmm.
We can establish the standard and you have the choice to either meet it or not. But it does not mean that we can't have a standard. It doesn't mean we can't have an ideal. It doesn't mean we can't say that this is what we are trying to work towards. And I'll never stop saying it. I don't care if I get accused of, there's so many, you're uppity or you're judgmental or you're, whatever, all these things. I don't mind being accused of those things because I really do think that standards are important. For one, I'm raising a young lady. She's 10 years old. I'm establishing standards for her and helping her understand. When she gets older, she has choices to make, but the standard has to be established and she may meet it or not. But my responsibility is to establish the standard and the ideal and to set the expectation.
Look, in the Black community right now, we have issues of economic weakness. We have issues of a lack of protection for our very lives. So having standards are very important. So, as far as economic strength, we're trying to build Black families so that we can create a stable place to build economically. And as far as protection, we need the economic strength to help us protect ourselves. So we set these standards for the good of everybody in the community. And one thing about standards is, it does have to be confronted when people don't uphold standards. Yeah, you have a choice whether to uphold them or not to uphold them. But, it's important that we confront the fact that, people are not upholding these standards because how can they be standards if you don't uphold them, push, support them, encourage them to be upheld. So I think that as Black women in the Black community, we should learn from our mistakes and pass that down to younger women. And, I'm really proud of Sarah, who this post was on her timeline, because I look at the images of her. She does some, a lot of modeling, and they're always a beautiful representation of what Blackness is in a very pure way. And, it's a credit. It's a positive thing to what we're trying to do. And, what this young lady is doing, it's just not. And I've been there. I'm not trying to make it seem like I'm better than anybody else. Again, when I was younger, I probably have done worse. But the thing is that, it's not okay. That doesn't make it okay. We need to stop and we need to check it and we need to speak on it and we need to continue to share with people that, our self-respect is everything.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. I don't have much else to say except what Shaquita is saying is absolutely true. And that I'll reiterate that I don't mind being accused of whatever it is that I can be accused of, but I still think it's important to maintain our standards and to insist on them. It is what it is.
And let me just say this one thing too. We need to understand when people are feeding us a load of crap. This whole slut shaming, what the hell is that? Like, who came up with that? What elder, what wise person came up with the idea that we shouldn't slut shame? That's like saying serial killer shaming. Like, okay, it's not.
Don't be a serial killer, then you won't be serial killer shamed.
That's not a good thing. You should be ashamed to be a slut. If I do something with the things that I've done or whatever, I should have been ashamed of them. When you do something wrong, you should be ashamed. That's a good thing.
Right. And I think, I'm glad you brought that up, Shaquita, because that's what it's coming to. It's like, you can't say anything about anybody without somebody saying, oh, you're shaming me. It's like, no, if you're doing the wrong thing, yeah.
Okay, yeah, but you can say everything about Black men. You can say all kinds of derogatory things about Black women. You can kill Black people in the street and nobody wants to say anything. But if you tell a slut that she's a slut, then that's slut shaming.
Shaquita does not mess around.
Just saying though, are we going to fight for slut rights, or are we going to fight for Black people's right to live?
Thank you for drawing that distinction. But of course, this conversation, like many of the ones that Shaquita and I have, could go on and on and on. But I seem to be the one who always brings it to a halt.
Stop it, no.
Today we've had a pretty heavy day, so it feels good to kind of laugh because the topics we've addressed have been very serious.
Yeah.
But I do want to say thank you, Shaquita. I have the utmost respect for you. I love you, and I love what you do in the Black community, and the fact that you're with me and those of us who want to uphold standards and want us to do better. So guys, if you want to find us, we're at marriedwomensbiz.com. We have a show, Shaquita and I, called Married Women's Business TV. And you can find more segments that we've done like this one. So thank you, Shaquita. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Take care and see you next time.
Thank you, Norma. Thanks, everybody.